Have you ever heard a story so incredible it seems like it belongs on the big screen? A tale of a baby in a basket, a prince turned fugitive, a burning bush, and the parting of an entire sea. This isn't a Hollywood blockbuster. It's one of the most foundational stories ever told, the epic life of Moses. Our story starts in ancient Egypt, a time of great fear for the Hebrew people. The powerful Pharaoh, worried about their growing numbers, issued a terrifying decree. Every newborn Hebrew boy was to be cast into the Nile River. In this dark hour, one mother's love and desperation sparked a miracle. She placed her beautiful baby boy in a waterproof basket and set him adrift among the reeds of the great river, praying for his safety. And her prayers were answered. Who should find him but the Pharaoh's own daughter? She took pity on the child, named him Moses, which means drawn from the water, and raised him as her own son, a prince of Egypt. Moses grew up in the lap of luxury, surrounded by the splendor and power of the Egyptian court. He learned the ways of a prince, educated in the finest schools, and lived a life of privilege most could only dream of. Yet, something always felt different. He was an Egyptian prince, but he was Hebrew by birth, a secret known only to a few. This dual identity created a conflict within him. One day, this conflict boiled over. He saw an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating a Hebrew slave. In a moment of righteous fury, Moses intervened, striking and killing the Egyptian. The secret was out. Overcome with fear and realizing his life was now in danger, Moses fled Egypt, leaving behind his title, his family, and everything he had ever known. He journeyed far into the desert, a vast and unforgiving wilderness. There, he became a shepherd, a humble life far removed from the palaces of Egypt. He married and started a family, perhaps thinking his old life was forever behind him. But destiny had other plans. One day, while tending his flock on a mountain called Horeb, Moses saw something impossible. A bush was on fire, but it wasn't burning up. The flames danced and flickered, but the leaves remained green. As he drew closer, a voice called to him from the heart of the fire. It was the voice of God. God told Moses that he had seen the suffering of the Israelites in Egypt and had chosen Moses to be their deliverer. Moses was stunned, full of doubt. He, a stuttering shepherd and a fugitive, was to confront the mighty Pharaoh and demand the release of an entire nation? He made excuses, arguing he was not the right man for the job. But God reassured him, promising to be with him and to give him the words to say and the power to perform miracles. This was the turning point. The shepherd prince was about to become a prophet. Reluctantly, Moses accepted his divine mission and began the long journey back to the land he had fled, back to face his past and forge the future of his people. With his brother Aaron by his side, Moses stood before the new Pharaoh, the man who may have been his childhood brother, and delivered God's command, "Let my people go." The Pharaoh, his heart hardened with pride and arrogance, laughed at the request. He refused, not once, but time and time again. So began a terrifying contest of wills between a king who believed he was a god and the one true God. To break Pharaoh's stubbornness, God unleashed a series of 10 devastating plagues upon Egypt. The Nile River turned to blood. Swarms of frogs, gnats, and flies infested the land. Livestock died, people were covered in painful boils, and a hailstorm of fire and ice rained down from the sky. Locusts devoured every green thing, and a profound darkness covered the land for 3 days. With each plague, Moses repeated the demand, and with each plague, Pharaoh's heart grew harder, his refusal more defiant. The final plague was the most terrible of all. The firstborn son in every Egyptian household would perish, from the palace to the dungeon. The Israelites, however, were given specific instructions. They were to sacrifice a lamb and mark their doorposts with its blood. When the angel of death passed over Egypt, it would see the blood and pass over their homes, sparing their children. That night, a great cry of anguish rose from the Egyptians as they discovered the tragedy that had befallen them. Even Pharaoh's own son was lost. Broken and defeated, Pharaoh finally summoned Moses and begged him and the Israelites to leave Egypt immediately. The Exodus began. Hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children, a nation of former slaves, gathered their belongings and marched out of the land that had been their prison for centuries. They were finally free, but their ordeal was far from over. As they journeyed towards the wilderness, Pharaoh had another change of heart. Consumed by rage and regret, he mustered his entire army, his elite chariots and horsemen, and pursued the fleeing Israelites, cornering them against the vast expanse of the Red Sea. Trapped, with the sea before them and the vengeful Egyptian army closing in behind, the people cried out in terror. It seemed their newfound freedom was to be short-lived. But Moses, holding fast to his faith, raised his staff over the water. A mighty east wind began to blow, and the impossible happened. The waters of the Red Sea parted, creating a dry path on the seabed, with towering walls of water on either side. The Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground. Once they were safely across, the Egyptian army charged into the same path in pursuit. But as the last Israelite stepped onto the far shore, Moses once again raised his staff. The walls of water collapsed, and the Red Sea crashed down upon the Pharaoh's army, swallowing them whole. On that day, the Israelites witnessed the ultimate salvation and the final defeat of their oppressors. Their journey to a new life had truly begun. After the miraculous escape at the Red Sea, Moses led his people into the Sinai desert. Their initial celebration soon gave way to the harsh realities of wilderness life. They grumbled about the lack of food and water, their faith wavering. Yet, God provided for them, sending manna from heaven to eat and causing water to spring from a rock. 3 months into their journey, they arrived at the foot of the imposing Mount Sinai. There, amid thunder, lightning, and a thick cloud covering the peak, God called Moses to the summit. For 40 days and 40 nights, Moses remained on the mountain, in the direct presence of God. It was here that he received the cornerstone of their new society, a moral and spiritual code for the people to live by. God inscribed with his own finger on 2 tablets of stone the 10 Commandments, rules for their relationship with God and with each other. These laws were more than just rules. They were the foundation of a covenant, a sacred agreement between God and the nation of Israel. When Moses came down from the mountain, his face shining with the divine light, he found a scene of chaos. In his absence, the people had grown impatient and fearful. They had convinced Aaron to build a golden calf, and they were worshiping it as the God who brought them out of Egypt. Heartbroken and furious at their betrayal, Moses threw down the stone tablets, shattering them at the foot of the mountain. After confronting the people and restoring order, Moses pleaded with God to forgive them. His deep love for his people moved God to show mercy and renew the covenant. Moses ascended the mountain once more to receive a new set of tablets. For the next 40 years, Moses would lead this difficult, rebellious, yet chosen people through the wilderness. It was a long and arduous journey of testing, learning, and purification. They faced enemies, internal strife, and their own recurring lack of faith. Moses acted as their leader, judge, and mediator, constantly interceding with God on their behalf, guiding a generation of slaves as they learned what it meant to be a free nation under God. After 4 decades of wandering, the Israelites finally stood on the border of the Promised Land, a land flowing with milk and honey that God had promised to their ancestors. They could see it in the distance, a beautiful and fertile reward for their long journey. But Moses, their faithful leader, was not destined to enter. Because of a moment of disobedience earlier in their travels, God told him he would only see the land from afar. So Moses climbed Mount Nebo, and from its peak, he looked out and saw the future home of his people. He had fulfilled his monumental task. He had led a nation of slaves out of bondage, given them God's law, and guided them to the very edge of their destiny. Having completed his mission, Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab. He was 120 years old, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. The people mourned him for 30 days, grieving the loss of the only leader they had ever known. Moses' story is a timeless testament to faith, leadership, and the power of a divine calling that can turn a shepherd into the liberator of a nation. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as epic as we do, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales from history and mythology. See you next time.